Okay, as you can see on my inner rods, I have offset them actually off the post because that's where they need to sit now. This is just a temporary fix. It kind of works, but I don't think it's a long-term solution. Considering on some form of a bracket, possibly coming down from here and coming up and meeting this bolt or the nut here. I'm not quite sure exactly what I'm going to do yet. Haven't quite got that far, but it's still burning in the back of my brain. I mentioned earlier that we had to replace this silver rod, and actually if you can see here, you can see why. So you can see actually how much of an extension there is to this. Like I said, it's a little under 2 inches, but nevertheless you still have to do it. I guess you may be able to take that end off, or this end, either one. Just thread a rod and then thread another pipe onto it if you like. I didn't like that idea because it's a weak point to me. I do feel this design here is a weak point. I originally thought this was 6mm rod that was threaded on the outside and cap screwed on. But when I took it apart, I found different. But it is pretty solid though. I mean, I haven't had no issues with it in the original form. Like I said, I haven't been able to have a chance to try this as a drivable vehicle yet. Like I mentioned earlier, this is a prototype to rear end. There will be a video made when my parts come on the modifications I had to make to the inside. You don't need to buy any replacement parts other than your axles and the shafts that go through them, the axle housings and shafts. I don't know positively yet until the parts come, but I'm pretty sure that all these bearings that are in here and the E-clips, and by the way, I've ordered extra of those. We all know how they like to go flying off. But I do believe all the steering knuckles and the lugs here, all and the steering arms and everything else is going to bolt straight onto this housing. I haven't taken it apart at this point yet, but from what I could look, when I look on their website at parts, it looks like it's hex shaped in here and basically male-female fitting style. And I also did order this part in aluminum and this part in aluminum. It's just because, what can I say, I like aluminum. My background is in metal fabrications, precision for most of the time. So I just have a thing about aluminum parts. I think they're stronger. It's not like my Baja or my XB where it's really going to get bashed hard. They go slow. Basically, they just got to creep over things. This is still the stock speed, whatever it is, 5 miles an hour, whatever the case may be. I haven't decided yet if I want to do any kind of upgrading to the motors. These seem to work pretty good. It's the stock can motor. You know, they sell them for like $15 each. The gearing is really reduced. I don't know the equation. But I will kind of give a showing tip on what parts I did to make my modifications on this vehicle. Give me a second here. I started off with just a piece of steel and then I just kind of stuck it on my drill press with an end mill on there and rough cut it down close to my size, and did a lot of filing. The other day I was at the hardware store and I found this square stock there, which is 1/4 inch. For your modifications in there where your axle halves, which would be this part right here, actually goes into a gear that's inside the transmission. And what you have to do is, I don't have it available, but the long, because this is the short shaft, or the short tubing, the one I replaced out. This part of it is only maybe half the distance, and you don't have none of this. So basically all this is sitting way down in here now. So what you need to do is you have to make up all this distance for when you put the other shaft on there. So like I said, I found this at Ace Hardware. It's a 1/4 inch by 1/4 inch. Now for the distance where you can see my finger, the longest distance, that's close to a 1/4 inch already. So you would only have to file a little bit off. Okay, but now if you look at it at the skinny direction, you have to remove a lot of material. So it's not an easy task. If you've done any form of metal fabrications, if you ever even used a file, you can do this. It's not that bad. Filing will be very time consuming. If you have a way to do it, to have it milled down a little bit, that'd be better. If you have a friend or a friend who has a friend. And then you just cut it to length. My original piece I made I fabricated out of the steel itself. I made this upper portion only at 600 thousandths, which is just a little bit over a 1/2 inch. What I forgot about is that this piece is going to be loose because you have to make an additional part. Okay, now for this collar piece, you have to make up that distance as well. So now what we're going to make is a sleeve that's going to fit over this, that's on the short one. When you tear it apart, you'll know what I'm talking about. Okay, now you got to make up all this distance because that one gear is going to rest on this. This is actually kind of a support to keep the gear from wobbling from side to side. Now what I used is a thing called, this is kind of hard because I'm going to have to set this down. Okay, we're back, folks. Okay, now what I used is this. It's called a ferrule. And basically what it does is you put a cable in through one of the holes, you make a loop, you push it back through the other hole, and there's a tool that can pinch this, or basically you can use a hammer on the floor and you smash it flat. Okay, so that's what I used. Now what I did is, this is a much bigger piece than what you have to use. I just bought a few of them because I wasn't sure what I needed. And I'm just using this bigger one for show and tell because it makes it a little easier to see. Now what I did is, the diameter that was required, I just put this on my drill press and drilled straight down the center of both of these holes with the size I was required. I don't know that number off the top of my head, but I will have that for you on my build video of this axle. Okay, and then once you get those drilled out, all you got to do is get yourself a small file, and you're still going to have a little bit of a hump like you see in the middle, but it's going to be very minor, and you just have to file it out until this end can fit in there. And if you look at it, and once you tear it apart and you really look at it, you'll be able to see that when you drill this part out, it will almost be a perfect fit. You'll just have to file a little here, a little there, but just take your time and just keep test fitting after a few little strokes, because you want it to be as tight as possible, but you want to be able to put it on without damaging the bearings or anything like that with a hammer or something, you know. Now what you're going to do then is once this part will actually be, sorry folks, it's just kind of hard to do one-handed. Okay, now this part is actually going to sit on there like that, and you're making a sleeve, because basically what you're doing is you're extending. But now remember, this is actually going to be sitting way down here on the other axle though. Okay, so now you got this thing all machined out and it fits on there. Now what you did is you just made this square stock the exact same size as what this looks like. And if you're familiar with calipers, they'll be your best friends on determining size. Trust me, it'll be your best friend. So then now you're going to take these two, and then this part's going to slip in there, and all you're doing is you're making an extension axle. And all this part is going to be is a collar that connects all these three together like this. And now this will fit into your gear. And now back when I said I made this part originally at 600 thousandths long, it turned out to be too short, and that piece can slide all the way into the gear and dislodge from your collar you just made. So it turns out that I needed to make this longer. I will give you the exact measurements when I do my how-to video on building this rear end. And this is what I've come up with. So So like I said, it's all over the counter parts. These are the only two parts you would have to buy and do some machining to size them to fit. Other than that, everything else is stock. And then again, back to this. Of course, we know this isn't stock, but you don't get a choice in the matter. If you want to do this, you got to do that, or figure out a way to do it. And like I said, there'll be further updates on the actual how-to of building this rear end.